Welcome back to the coding challenge number 3. So in this case, we'll just relate the calculate average human age function from the previous challenge. So, but this time an arrow function using an chaining. Okay, let's just grab that. So here we have written, right? So let me just copy all this code here. And then here we are pasting it. But we don't. Okay, here we don't want anything which we just turned off, so let me just remove that. And also here we don't want any console.log, so let me just remove that. Okay, so here we are having the same data, so let's just keep it as this. So without just turning this here off, so let me just here write a new one. So let me just say constant calculate average human age. So we are setting here this to the ages, and then here the arrow function we are using ages.map. So nothing but here we are just using the same thing. So let me just copy this and paste it here. Okay, and also here we are using one more, right? So which is the filter. So just copy that, and here we just pasted the filter. Okay, for now here we have two arrays, one for each function call, but let's now also calculate the average for the what we needed to do is the chain method of calculating the average. So which is this average which we calculated and we done in the challenge number 2. Okay, so we are going to do that here. Let's just grab this from here now. So let me just copy that, and also let me just put it here in the reduce. So that's it. So here we have already declared here, right? So let me just turn this off and then run it. As you can see here, we got the same output as before. So this is how we just converted from the previous challenge to this one here into the arrow function. So let me just put it that here back as well. So let me just go ahead and turn this here off. So in order to not to give the error. And so now here we get the same result as before. That's actually it. But what's really important to notice here is that it is actually the only way of calculating the average now. So basically dividing by the age by the length of the current array immediately here in the each iteration, as you can see here what we just did here. So remember that in the last challenge, I first simply added all the values together, and then after I divided it by the length of the array. So in this case, the length of the adults array, however, that's not going to work in this case because there would be no way of knowing the length of the adults array here. So of this result here, right, because we haven't stored it anyway, so we couldn't do this like the adults dot length, right? So that is not possible because adults here does not exist here anyway, and therefore we need to take the length from the input here. Okay, so from this here the fourth parameter here the array, so on which the method is called, and that's the reason why I showed you this way here in the last lecture, because again this is the only way in which we can calculate the average unless we wanted to do in the two steps. But my instruction here was to really do it with the chaining, and so this is the way to go then. All right, so make sure you understand why all this works here, and then actually move on to our next method, which is going to be the find method. Okay, that's it for this challenge.